Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. Ledger is currently offering free shipping on a number of their Ledger Nano devices, as well as some brand new limited editions as well from the hundreds. Clay Nation and the Chalk Blade edition sounds a little bit fancy, as well as 10% off their bundles and their packs on the Ledger Backup Pack, the Ledger Family Pack S Plus, and the Ledger Family Pack X. For those of you who are interested in protecting your crypto, there is an affiliate link in the description below. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Where do I begin? Where do I start? It's a very weird news day again. I'm not sure exactly how or where a lot of this came from. So you might remember, I'm sure you do, just a couple of weeks ago, a lot of the news was surrounding the idea of the halving, and basically everyone and their mother popping up at some point to talk about where they saw cryptocurrency prices going, or how high things were going to go, or what the correlation between this one was and how high we were going to go this year. We had twice in the last 3 or 4 weeks a number of price dips that we're also going to lightly skim over. And since then, or rather when that happened, a lot of the narrative then became not more negative, but the news kind of morphed into this really weird amalgamation of just random stuff that was kind of thrown out there for everyone to in some way kind of engage with. And now, as we get closer to, still not there, as we get closer to the halving, a lot of these people are popping back up in the news, but with a slightly different take on something that they said a number of years ago. And I'm wondering if people are trying to once again change the narrative of what's going on as far as the entire idea of Bitcoin as gold, as digital gold, as a store of value. We also had news 2 days ago. Oh gosh, what was it? What was a term that someone used? Bitcoin as a global reserve or something along those lines. I forgot exactly what it was, but Peter Brandt, one of the more popular Bitcoin analytical predictionists within the space, has reemerged this week to talk about exactly where he thinks Bitcoin is going to go and what exactly is about to happen. I'll also give you a rundown of other people saying what they've been saying. You'll get it in a little bit. Renowned trader, his name is Peter Brandt, recently stirred up the crypto space with a bold proclamation on Twitter, asserting Bitcoin's regal supremacy over gold in the long term. Brandt, a veteran in the trading arena, depicted Bitcoin as the undisputed monarch. Who wrote this article? Relegating gold to the status of a mere barren, while dubbing silver as the court jester. No one talks this way. This isn't how anyone would say anything. Okay. All right, continuing on. Backing his assertion with a compelling chart, Brandt illustrated the steady decline of gold's value against Bitcoin. Since the latter's emergence on exchanges in early 2010s, over the span of 12 years, gold's value has plummeted from 740 Bitcoin, so before you would need 740 Bitcoin to get gold, and now you only need 0.032 Bitcoin, lending credence to Brandt's bullish outlook for Bitcoin's dominance. You might have seen in the last week as well, a lot of the news that's popping up is kind of what do I even call it? So remember the thing once again that we were talking about with $1 Million Listing, and I'm trying to sell the apartment for 50,000 Bitcoin, that kind of thing. It's really weird how the cryptocurrency space works and how everything kind of, I don't want to say fits together, but the timing of news is always very, very odd. Remember that 2 or 3 day period where all the news that came out was people saying stuff that they didn't want to say, but they actually meant something else? It's kind of everything keeps happening in waves, but it's very specific for the cryptocurrency space. So now we're talking about the devaluation of other assets comparative to Bitcoin. The idea being everything, every single thing has depreciated next to the value of Bitcoin. He's using a 12-year span. Most people use the entire 15 for as long as Bitcoin has been out. Comparative to any real estate you bought, any other assets you own, they've all fallen dramatically in value compared to Bitcoin, no matter when you actually ended up purchasing them. That's the really interesting part that I think will become, or rather, I think even should, I say that personally, should become part of the new narrative for Bitcoin, because I think it's when people hear numbers or have numbers thrown at them, I think it doesn't have the same impact as them realizing that Bitcoin has outperformed every other thing that they bought that they tried to get money from. Not realizing that the reason why the value of some of those assets went up in price is because of inflation and no other actual thing. But then also even comparatively, if they had bought Bitcoin, they would have made 30, 40 times actually the amount of money that they did before. So even just thinking, we've had, and this is one of the craziest things that I personally think about, is we've had gold for a while. It's been a while and a day since we've had gold or used this shiny thing from the earth as a form of currency. And then you think over the course of 12 years, the acceleration in everything that we currently see around us. It took 12 years for one piece of gold to cost 740 Bitcoin to now just being 0.03. That's quite astonishing. And the issue is that over the course of the next 12 years, it's going to cost even less Bitcoin to get gold. And this will only continue as one is rarer than the other, and the other one we continue to find inside of the earth. Here's the tweet right here for it. It says, in the long-term frame, Bitcoin is king over gold and should remain on the throne for a very long time. Think of Bitcoin as the ruler, gold is the baron, and silver as the court jester. The article continues basically repeating the same thing kind of over and over, basically going over the idea of trends or where he thinks things are going to go and exactly how high Bitcoin's going to go. There's been a lot of, it's really funny. Over the course of the last 2 weeks, any price dips that we did have, the negative Nancy's re-popped back into the market. I was actually quite surprised that anyone would even think of being negative in this market where we are with this level of accumulation. There was a large amount of news about the U.S. moving money and how like inflows. I think Fidelity had an inflow one day, and I air quote here, had an air quote of an inflow of only $44 million, and they were like, "Oh, this is so bearish. Bitcoin's going down." And I was like, "Can no one else count? You don't understand how much $44 million just for Fidelity is." And I've noticed a lot of articles are now, I don't know if the word is nitpicking, but like they're very specifically pulling out one thread from a blanket and saying, this is the entire blanket. Look how it's fallen apart kind of thing. And they're finding very specific cases of people moving around money. There's been, maybe you've seen them as well. There's been a lot of articles floating around of like wallets moving their money. So I'm not joking. That's not a joke at all. So you know how like one of the points of crypto is to be able to like own your money, hold your own money, and do with it as you will. If you want to move it to another wallet, to another computer, if you want to move it to Coinbase, if you want to sell it, if you want to buy more, if you want to lock it into a cave, you can do it. It's your money. And a lot of like wallets, people who like bought years ago, sometimes are moving around like $13 million, just moving to another address. And these like whale watcher accounts will talk about them, and they're like, are they going to dump their coins on the market? And it's like, if they do, that's the point of the space. It's for you to be able to do what you want with your own money without anyone telling you not to do so. Also, continuing on the theme of, I think a lot of people in this market are very new. That's not to be mean. That's not to talk down to anyone. But it's like abundantly clear that this is the first time that a lot of people have ever gotten into a financial market, or especially this being their first cycle. $13 million moving around or even being sold is not going to crash the price of Bitcoin. $1 billion moving around is not going to crash the price of Bitcoin. The US moving $3 billion worth of Bitcoin is not going to lower the price of Bitcoin. What does lower the price of Bitcoin is when people write articles telling you that you should be afraid that this money is on the move and therefore the price might go down. It has a very strong psychological effect when someone who you're reading from or hearing from tells you to be afraid about something. You wouldn't think that the chain actually goes that far, but when you text a friend, they text a friend. If you have 30,000 people reading that article and they all message 3, 4, 5 people, at some point the selling pressure does happen because everyone's told that they should be afraid, and it kind of just continues on this way. We have an enormous amount of liquidity within this market, a tremendous amount of liquidity in the cryptocurrency space, and people moving around their coins or even selling them is something that's, I'm sorry to break it to you, it's something that's going to happen. People are going to move their coins, they're going to sell them, and it's going to have no effect on the market. And even more so for those of you who were here the last couple of years. Do you remember when we got the news that Tesla owned a lot of Bitcoin? And then the price went up because everyone was like, woo, when they buy? I never even noticed. They didn't say anything for a year. And then we got news a year and some change later that they had actually sold off a large position of their Bitcoin. But nothing had happened to the price of Bitcoin. They even said in their press release or whatever they were talking about, they said their goal was to sell Bitcoin back onto the market without anyone noticing to see if the price would go down. And it didn't. Because we have an enormous amount of liquidity. We have an enormous amount of in and outs happening within the market that the market can take these movements quite easily. But when that news came out that they had sold some over the course of a year that no one noticed, the price went down that day because everyone was expecting everyone else. It's this nonsense kind of thing that's going on, and is going to lead, and I say this nicely, it's going to lead a lot of people to financial ruin because you keep trying to time the market. You may notice a lot of times if you look on Twitter that there are a lot of people who are talking about that they have diamond hands, or I saw one earlier today where this guy was saying like, no matter up, no matter down, if you've been here and none of this phases you, you're a Bitcoin veteran. I understand that it takes a while to be able to like have stable hands in this market, but it's completely true. The prices are going to go down. Nothing will go up forever. It's really ridiculous that people think that a market, have you seen anything go up forever? Anything. How long have you been on this planet? I heard different numbers out there. The point is, the market will go back up, but there are going to be dips. There are always dips. And all that's happening right now is every time that there is a dip, it's being bought up by these companies who already don't want you in this market. It's a very weird thing. I'm seeing like a lot of pessimism every time that I think we went down by 3,000 one time in Bitcoin's price. And you might, whoever was commenting on what I was saying on Twitter as well, it was so weird. I was looking at a post with people talking about OMI, and for those of you who don't know, OMI is Ecomi, ECOMI. It's the coin from Vivi, the digital collectible NFT platform. And the previous all-time high for the coin was 1 cent. It was 0.012. It was over 1 cent. And a lot of people, in like a really bearish kind of way, were talking about that when the bull market really gets going, especially for altcoins, they'll be happy if it goes back to 1 cent or 2 cents. And I was like, it's so clear that so many people are brand new here. You have no idea what's coming. You have no idea how strong the market actually is. That's why I always say, like, do more research. Just read. It's not going to hurt you. It's literally like, it's only better for you and your brain. It keeps you sharp. Read more. Explore more. Like, try to understand this market that you're in. I've never experienced the situation where people just don't want to learn more and they continue throwing their money at anything that they hear, or even if someone tells them to be afraid, they completely panic. And then this keeps happening over and over, is that as the market recovers, these people don't know when to jump back in because they're being told that the market's going to drop again. There was an article talking about that Bitcoin's going down to 22,000, and I was like, are you okay? The person who wrote that article was like, What in the world are you thinking? So all that ends up happening is if Bitcoin falls down to 65,000 and then recovers back to 68,000, these people continue thinking that there's going to be another dramatic drop and they're the only ones who understand the market and know what's going on. They end up not buying. Bitcoin goes back up to 71,000 and then they're forced to buy back in at a worse position than they had before. It's like a weird cycle. It keeps happening over and over. It's a very easy way to flush poor people out of the market. Literally, that's all that it's for. It's the same exact thing with stocks. It's the same exact thing with every other market, with the housing market. These people know how to play this kind of game where they can completely convince you to sell your position, to get out of the market, making you think that something bad is going to happen. And you look over the course of a 12-year time frame and you go, oh my gosh, I was lied to. But then who do you complain to? Because you were the one who sold. Very, very odd. So there's a lot of optimism and this really weird level of pessimism. But I think that's because a lot of people naturally are pessimists. As far as I've seen in my life, I've met a lot of people who like thrive on negativity. They want the negativity to be there. They want other people to also bathe in this kind of negativity. And when they don't get the spotlight for being negative or negative things aren't happening, they kind of push further negativity into your life just to make sure that you also feel this misery with them. If I was going to say, if that makes any sense, it should. You've all been around for a while. You know exactly who that person is in your life who does that. Anyway, that's the Bitcoin is gold king news or something like that. Moving along. Also, and I say this, and I will say this as many times as I have to, Solana is a scam. Solana and every other coin built on top of it, these are all scams. I don't know how to make you believe that, but I think at some point you probably will. Solana is backed by venture capital money. It was a coin. It's a chain that was created by companies in order to make you believe that they had something better than other things that were actually decentralized. Don't have a conversation with me about how decentralized Solana is and how amazing that it is. No, this coin is actual garbage, as is the actual database that is built on top of that has crashed a multitude of times. So for those of you who have actually realized, I'm giving you a thumbs up. You can't see it, but I'm actually literally giving you a thumbs up. The other problem is now is that there's no actual usage for Solana. Nobody really wants to use it. No one's been choosing to use it. So what's currently happening right now is that a number of meme coins, M-E-M-E coins, have been built on top of Solana to give it some kind of value. The idea is that Ethereum has value because of the number of coins that have been built on top of it, the number of projects, the number of staking, you name it. There's tons of stuff built on top of Ethereum. It's getting tons of usage. But one of the things that made Ethereum popularer over the last bull run was the advent of meme coins being built on top of it. And they had an enormous amount of success despite them also being scams. Understand that and I say this in the air quotiest, lightest grain of salt way possible. The only ones that have a fragment of legitimacy, fragment is Dogecoin and Shiba Inu. Fragment, grain of salt. Look in your hand. Can you see the salt? It's because it's a grain. It's very, very tiny. Everything else is trying to mimic them. That's why every other coin that you see is constantly some type of a dog-based coin. They're trying to constantly capitalize on these dog ideas of coins and try to sell them to you in some sort of way. Solana over the last 6 or 7 months has re-popped into the public sphere gaze simply because of the astronomical amount of meme coins that have been built on top of this platform. And the problem is, and this is a big gigantic problem, is that people can easily create a coin, throw it onto Solana. If they know how to advertise properly, they get people to get into it. And the problem is that if this coin is made by, 3, 4, 5 people, it's not difficult to make a coin, and they advertise properly, they can buy up a huge amount of the coins themselves. It gets put onto a decentralized exchange. It gets put onto somewhere. They see that the coin's advertising worked properly. The coin's price begins to pump, and then they sell. These people who are making these coins are making an astronomical amount of money. Then they pay other people to write articles for them on cryptocurrency news websites, and they tell them, hey, write about this thing. It's not difficult to get an article written by one of these websites. You pay them a couple hundred, pay them a couple thousand, write an article that says this meme coin did a 9,000x. One trader made $14.7 million from the $1,000 he put inside. And you don't realize that the $1,000 that was put inside was from the person who created the coin. They accumulated all of it before it went onto the market. The amount of rug pulls, once again, are quite sad. A rug pull, imagine you're standing on a rug and someone pulls it under you. What happens? You fall on your booty. Yes, that's what's happening over and over, and this is continuously happening on Solana as well. I cannot and will not ever tell you what to do with your money, but I will tell you to please watch out. I know that these are alluring. I know that these look cool and fantastic and fun, and you join Reddit and you join these other things on Discord and you have a little community and it sounds really fun and cool and awesome. No, these are all scams, every single one of you. And the problem is, much like BitConnect and much like many of these other coins and chains that have appeared over the course of many years, is that people begin to throw money into these coins that they cannot afford to lose. I'm already seeing tons of people online talking about the rug pulls happening. I lost $12,000. I lost this amount of money. And it's like, you know, it's a scam. Part of the problem is, and the issue with scams and pyramid schemes and MLMs is that everyone assumes that when they get in, that they're at the top of the pyramid. Everyone thinks that they have some kind of information that someone else doesn't. So when you know that this coin is going to crash, you think that you can time it better than others. But guess what? You know, the 30,000 people who are also in that scam think the same thing about you. And the problem is that none of you are in on the game. It's the people who created the coin. It's the people who created these things who are going to rug pull you. This is only going to accelerate. This is only going to get worse. As the bull market continues, especially when we get to $100,000 Bitcoin, it's going to be absolutely insane. You are going to be tempted to put your money into these scams, and I implore you, just ignore them, because you cannot time them. You will not make money from them. And a lot of them, especially ones on DEXs, decentralized exchanges, they're going to take your money and you will never be able to get any of it back. A lot of Solana meme coin news, an enormous amount of Solana news. A lot of people talking about Solana's going to 1,000. Solana's going to do this. It's based off of absolute nonsense. The people who are using this chain are people who've been paid by other companies to make applications on this chain. There's no real usage for it, and no one actually in crypto wants to use Solana. So the use case now for it is, well, there's tons of meme coins. Look at all the meme coins on top of it. People are making millions every single day. When the bull market's over and prices begin to go back down, no one's going to talk about Solana again for another 2 to 3 years. Just a forewarning. I've been here before. I've been here a while. Solana is no different than any of these other chains that have been popping up. Just trying to warn ya. That's the Solana is a scam news. I don't know how to say it in any other way except for that way. Moving along. Also, in what I think is supposed to be popular news, we're getting a very large amount of I'm rich, you're poor, listen to me kind of news regarding Bitcoin in the cryptocurrency market, wherein as BlackRock, Fidelity, and other names got into Bitcoin and got into the ETF space, when the ETFs were launched, a lot of people began to go to their online brokerage firms where they get their stocks, their bonds, their mutual funds, their ETFs, yada, 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 and found out that Bitcoin was not being offered in a lot of these places. I think one of them was Vanguard. I think Vanguard was the one that people were using the most. I used to use Vanguard a number of years ago because they have very low fees. And they were not offering Bitcoin. And then the CEO of Vanguard came forward and he said, we don't think Bitcoin is an asset class. You know, it's not stable enough to invest in it for our clients and all these other things. And I said what I said before, and I'll say it once again. As apparently it says, while some of the top Wall Street players have joined the crypto bandwagon, banking giant Goldman Sachs prefers to look the other way. Sharim Musava Rahimi, Chief Investment Officer of the bank's wealth management unit, shared her negative stance on the crypto space. I don't care. I don't care what she has to say. I don't care what Warren Buffett has to say. I don't care what Jamie Dimon has to say. I don't care what the CEO of Vanguard has to say. Like, it's impossible for me to push my care lower than it currently is. Like, I mean, it's near the center of the earth at this point. I started looking at the cryptocurrency space back in 2012 to 2016. It took me years. You want to know why it took me years? Because every single article, everything that I read about Bitcoin was negative. Bitcoin is being used by criminals. Bitcoin is only for this. Bitcoin, you wouldn't believe, and I have so many times where I sit here personally and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how amazing it would have been if I got into Bitcoin back in 2012. Oh my, and I like have these moments where I'm like, oh gosh, I could have $1 billion. And I'm like, the reason I don't is because these people are so obsessed with keeping the world the way that it is because it benefits them. The way that they've set up the system is that they are the winners and we are the losers, and they can easily make it so in every single asset class. When you have something that gets created that could give some type of power to billions of people around the world without having to ask permission to do something, the way that we currently live, the system that we currently live under, you have to ask permission to make a bank account. You have to ask permission to be able to buy funds and ETFs, and it has to go through all this other type of stuff. With Bitcoin, you just have to download a wallet. You have to think why people like Warren Buffett, why all of these very rich people are so adamantly against a system that helps billions of people that they don't own or that they don't control. Remember years ago where all these people were talking about Bitcoin's evil because it needs to be controlled by a government. Why? Because it benefits the rich people in power. That's why it came as no surprise, but it's also quite disgusting when you hear a lot of these people talking negatively about Bitcoin, and then they all out of nowhere, yeah, we love Bitcoin, because they were telling you not to buy it while they accumulated a huge amount in the background. Bitcoin has done not even well. There's not a word in English to even describe how great Bitcoin's returns have been. The accumulation levels, the usage of Bitcoin. When you talk about that Bitcoin has no value, I can never roll my eyes enough at the TV or the computer screen. Do you understand that Bitcoin transacts more money per month than certain countries or banks? You understand what it means to have 3 transactions per second, and you're still able to transact trillions of dollars per month without a hiccup? Do you know what it means to be able to move on your own $18 million that you have in Bitcoin that you had years ago and not have to ask your bank permission? Hey, can I move my money? I haven't touched it in 5 years. And even more so, when you move that money, your transaction fee, while high on Bitcoin, maybe around $9, $10, $11, $12, $13, $14, $15, it's still less than like the $10,000, $15,000 you would have to pay with your bank as you're trying to send $50 million. That's value. And they know that as well. And a lot of the news that keeps popping up, and a lot of the times these people keep going on TV, I think as an excuse. I'm not sure if it's we didn't get in early enough, so now we have to try and save face and tell our clients that this isn't a great asset class. They're moving along. They're putting their money in other places. Because the problem is, and the problem has always been, the same exact thing with all these countries who've been banning Bitcoin and or restricting Bitcoin, and this is also a thing, or telling their citizens how much Bitcoin and crypto that they could own, is that when Bitcoin goes to $100,000, there's going to be a palpable amount of anger from these people and from these clients. Why didn't you guys get into Bitcoin at 18,000? Why did you not offer ETFs on your platform? Do you see that Bitcoin has 4x'd in the last 16, 17 months? Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell me to get into this thing? Years ago, this would have gotten me. This would have completely, oh my gosh, it was someone from Wall Street said it. Well, they must be telling the truth. But now when you understand how, I don't want to use the term evil. I don't know these people individually. How collectively nonsensical these people are when it comes to lying, or when it comes to trying to Is the opposite of persuade dissuade? I feel like it is. I'm going to say dissuade people from getting into the market. And I don't care what anyone's negative stance is on crypto. I literally do not care. And I've seen articles before. People will sometimes retweet stuff at me or send me stuff in emails. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, we've already won. This is why there's such an immense amount of backlash all around the world. There's a reason why BlackRock got into this market. It's because they're foreseeing $1 million Bitcoin. All these other people, and I mean the only reason why BlackRock is in it, because they know exactly where it's going. And they understand that they have to change before the market changes around them and they have no exposure to this new asset class. There's not enough Bitcoin for every millionaire and every billionaire on the planet. It is literally not possible. We are going to live in a world in the next decade where there are a number of millionaires and billionaires who only have 0.25 Bitcoin or half of a Bitcoin. It is not possible for all of them, especially not now. Even if it was only 21 million. You know how many millionaires and billionaires there are on the planet? There's barely 1 million Bitcoin left. Barely. 1 million Bitcoin left on crypto exchanges that's actually liquid. We just had news a couple of days ago. I think the amount of Bitcoin on crypto exchanges is around is 1.5 or 1.6 million or something along those lines. All of that is in liquid. How many of you have Bitcoin that you do not plan on selling that's just sitting on a cryptocurrency exchange? There's tons of people who have their crypto on these websites. 21 million Bitcoin, even if you gave one to every single millionaire and billionaire, there would still be a huge amount of them left who could not have an entire Bitcoin. When you talk about these companies are buying 200,000 Bitcoin at once, that's 199,000 other millionaires and billionaires who will never have an entire coin. We are going to live in a world where millionaires and billionaires in the future are going to be very, very angry because they can only own a fraction of a Bitcoin. Many of you right now are holding more Bitcoin than some of these millionaires will ever be able to own. Isn't it shocking to think of that? The continuous fight against this market, the continuously going on CNBC talking about, well, Bitcoin's far too, I don't care. I know what Bitcoin is. I know that it's going to succeed. I know what the halvings are. I know this monetary policy that we can follow, that we don't have to worry about hyperinflation from Bitcoin. We know where the market is going. If demand remained the same right now, we are on our way to $1 million Bitcoin. The issue is that demand doesn't remain the same for Bitcoin. It continuously goes up the more people who get into the market. Have you ever seen this thing before where if you give someone something and they see that it rises in value, they want more of it? It's like a very common thing. If you gift someone $100 worth of Bitcoin and they see that in a couple of months it goes to $214, they're going to want more Bitcoin because they see that the 100 that they had, they could have put 900 into it, had 1,000 and made that into 2,000. Their mind begins to understand the actual power and the scarcity of it, and then they start buying more. But this happens to everyone who's in the market. Everyone continues to buy more Bitcoin. Whenever we hear that there's only a $44 million inflow into Fidelity and only a $180 million inflow into BlackRock, do you understand those numbers? You know how much Bitcoin that is? You know how much Bitcoin's being accumulated? Have you heard about the other companies recently? If you've been watching this video daily, you've definitely seen it. There's a what do you call it? There's a wallet that people are calling Mr. 100 because sometime around, I think, the end of last year, the wallet appeared, and ever since they've been buying 100 Bitcoin per day. 100 Bitcoin per day, this one wallet. You know, the problem is that people are now calling it Mr. 500, Mr. 700, and Mr. 900. I'll let you guess why. Because when the price drops, this person is buying 700 that day. They're buying 900 that day. Most days, they're now doing 300 Bitcoin on average per day. These people know what's happening. They see it right before their eyes, but for some reason they continue to try and uphold this legacy where other people don't have access to the world that they live in. You are going to live on a planet where millionaires and billionaires have less Bitcoin than you. The value of their assets are going to collapse compared to the price of Bitcoin. That apartment on $1 Million Listing lost 99.98% of its value compared to Bitcoin in, I think, 7 or 8 years. What happens in the next 12 years? Why are all these companies buying up a huge amount of Bitcoin? BlackRock is still on target to have over 1 million Bitcoin by the end of summer. 1 million Bitcoin. It's still 2024. I do not care what these executives have to say. I do not care what the wealthy think about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has performed exceedingly well, and I've seen it happen over the course of 8 years. I've seen it do incredibly well. I still have these moments where I wish, of course, I had, literally just sold everything in my house and bought as much Bitcoin as possible. But alas. Right. This was also, I don't want to say the term popular news, but this was one of those, this is everywhere kind of news thing. And I always question why people who write articles within the cryptocurrency space make it one of their agendas to bring out news like this, because all it does, it does scare people. People see this news and they go, maybe I shouldn't be buying so much. Prices rise and they forget about the news that they read before, because there's so much information constantly hitting us in the face every single day, and they don't remember why they didn't buy Bitcoin. And it's like, it's because you were lied to. Because heaven help us if in 4 or 5 years, I even give it a good 2.5 years, if Goldman Sachs begins to offer ETFs to their clients and they go, yeah, now we see Bitcoin as, Bitcoin's amazing. What was the reason? What changed? Were you all buying in the background? Right. Yeah. I think that's going to do it for this video. I do sincerely hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.